It's good to be back again after 7 days, and today promises to be another interesting edition of your number one energy news program here at Africa Independent Television, AIT. We have a lot of packages for you today in our 7 days in energy sector segment, and in that segment, we shall be bringing you stories that shaped the discussions during the week, as Heineken Lokobiri, talking about the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Oil, was in Lagos in the course of the week to participate in one of the conferences that held in the state. Heineken Lokobiri looked into investments in the energy sector, particularly talking about the oil and gas sector space, where he spoke to the issues on the support for local refineries and the need for individuals to support the growth of local refineries, including building capacity for that arm of the energy sector. Also, in the course of the program and in our 7 days in energy review segment, the National Association of Energy Correspondents, talking about journalists covering the energy sector, converged critical stakeholders in the energy sector space during the week. That event also held in Lagos to talk about ways and patterns of driving development in the energy sector. That will also form part of our news coverages in the 7 days in energy sector segment, after which we take you to Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where we were also told that some youth staged a rally in the course of the week, this time around to protest the activities, or if you like, the crisis between the Pengasin and Nupeng on the one hand and Dangote refinery on the other hand. The argument of the students is that the current protest and agitation for unionization of workers in the Dangote refinery is uncalled for at this stage, but rather the call to support that local refinery. We shall be bringing you details of some of these stories, including other interesting stories that make headlines in the course of the week in our 7 days energy sector segment. I still remain your regular host, Afemike Ebigye remains my name. We shall be going on a quick break at this point, and when we return, we shall be going straight to energy sector in 7 days segment. We are starting this week energy in 7 days review from Lagos, where the Minister of State Petroleum Resources Oil, Heineken Lokobiri, during a presentation at a conference, said the Nigerian energy policy remains focused on ensuring energy security that puts the interest of citizens first above all other considerations. Lokobiri, who was represented at the Lagos conference, also noted that the current support for local refineries and capacity building in the energy sector by government is a drive to ensure adequate supply of fuel to meet domestic needs.
The federal government is therefore committed to ensuring that every barrel produced in Nigeria contributes to meeting both our domestic and international obligations. Also, as part of deliberate policy and broader strategy, the Naira for Crude Sale Agreement will continue to be a major step in reducing cost of fuel production, mitigate the exposure to the fluctuating exchange rate, and of course, generally support indigenous refining. In the bid to extending refining obligation beyond the shores of this country, we launched the West Africa Fuel Reference Market to position Nigeria as a regional refining and product supply hub to other West African sub-regions.
By scaling capacity, driving efficiency, and fostering regional partnership, Nigeria can realistically lead African refining transformation and enhance continental energy security. But key challenges remain, and these are some of the key challenges. Access to affordable financing for refinery projects, regulatory clarity and consistency that investors can trust, infrastructural bottlenecks for power to pipelines, the need for all stakeholders to see tangible benefit so that refining becomes a shared victory, not a source of conflict and resistance.
Still staying in Lagos, journalists covering the energy sector during the week converged critical stakeholders in the oil and gas sector, power sector to discuss a new roadmap for the energy sector in Nigeria to advance investments in the entire value chain. In his opening remarks, Chairman of Association of Energy Correspondents of Nigeria, NAEC, Ugo Amadi, said objective reportage of the energy sector in Nigeria remains at the heart of energy journalists. Other speakers at the event, which include the Executive Secretary of NATI, Orji Ogbonnaya Orji, Executive Chief, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and others in the entire energy sector value chain, noted that Nigeria must work in the right direction to drive investment in the energy sector.
The 9th Annual Conference is an annual event that brings together stakeholders comprising policymakers, regulators, operators, investors, service companies, PR agencies, and journalists within the oil and gas, power, solid mineral, and renewable energy sector to brainstorm on issues affecting the development and sustainability of the sector for the growth of the Nigerian economy and for a better life for all Nigerians. The theme of this year's conference is Nigerian energy future, optimizing opportunities and addressing risk for sustainable growth. Although this theme may sound too common and overused, it is short but also underscores the fact that until Nigeria resolves the distinct challenges hindering us from making good use of our abundant natural resources and talented human capacity to uplift the country and guarantee a better life for our upcoming generation, we cannot stop talking about it. From NATI point of view, the secrecy that is involved at the value chain is the main of our concern. The global energy transition towards cleaner fuels, gas optimization and renewable energy requires nothing short of openness, responsibility and innovation at every stage of the value chain. At NATI, Nigeria Interactive Industry Transparency Initiative, as philosophy remains clear and uncompromising that data builds trust. Trust drives investment. Investment generates revenue. Revenue delivers impact, and impact are usually targeted at close communities, the citizens, the industry.
The ongoing dispute between the Dangote refinery, Pegasin, and Nupeng, on the other hand, made news content again in the course of the week under review, this time with students under the umbrella of Student Youth Movement taking to the streets in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to protest what they say is an attempt by Pegasin, Nupeng, including Dapman and other oil cartels, to undermine the Dangote refinery. A development they say, if allowed to continue, could potentially disrupt smooth fuel supply and compromise Nigerians' energy security.
Dangote refinery has come to stay, and there's no amount of gango for the pit of Pegasan, Nupeng, or Dapman that will stop Dangote. We are going to resist any of that. Only Balu with all our strength, with all our blood. We have come to say enough is enough. This element jointly killed our economy. This element crippled all the refineries in Nigeria.
Nigerians' ambition to become Africa's gas powerhouse received a major boost during the week in review, with the unveiling of a bold regulatory roadmap by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission aimed at unlocking over 5 trillion cubic feet of uncommitted gas reserves and attracting billions of dollars in new investments into the country's gas value chain. While giving further clarity, the NUPRC noted that since the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act, the Commission has approved over 25 non-associated gas field development plans, thereby unlocking nearly 9,790 BSCF of reserves. Speaking at an event in Lagos, the Commission Chief Executive, NUPRC Gbenga Komolafe, represented by the Executive Commissioner Development and Producer Enorese Amadasun, outlined the Commission's strategic focus on driving gas development, monetization and infrastructure expansion to ensure Nigerians' energy future and support economic transformation.
On the 25th of October 2025, Raymond Dokpesi Center for Media Development will hold its 18th annual Raymond Dokpesi Endurance Trek. The trek will hold across the states of Lagos and Edo. The theme of the trek is Raymond Dokpesi, the beacon of hope for broadcasting in Nigeria. Media practitioners and people from all walks of life will, during the 18th Endurance Trek, reflect on the role of the legendary hero of broadcasting in the global media space. The center is also requesting from the federal government of Nigeria, led by His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to immortalize Raymond Dokpesi. The center urges Mr. President to declare the 25th day of October as a day of private broadcasting in Nigeria. Raymond Dokpesi's role in broadcasting within the shores of Nigeria, Africa, and the global space remains incontrovertible. The trek will begin from Collington Bus Stop, Alagbado, at 10 a.m. and will terminate at the AIT compound, number 1, Ilakpo Village, Lagos, Nigeria. In Edo State, the trek will begin from the NUJ building round the city center and back to the press building. We call on Nigerians from all walks of life to take part in the trek in honor of the late Dr. Raymond Dokpesi, the legendary hero of broadcasting. Be there!
It's good to know that you are still tuned to this program. At this point, we shall be going straight to our next segment, which is the interview segment, or that segment that brings you perspectives from critical stakeholders in the energy sector, where they speak to defining issues as far as the sector is concerned. On this week's edition of that segment, we shall be taking the perspectives of a former Minister of State for Mineral Resources, talking about Uche Oga. Uche Oga speaks to issues and challenges in particular areas of the energy sector, and also profile solutions to how that problems, or if you like, challenges could be solved. That segment will come shortly after this break.
As we are all aware, the successive federal government of Nigeria has set an unprecedented energy reforms agenda in motion in recent years. First, in the Petroleum Industry Act, signed into law in 2021 by their former president, late President Muhammad Buhari. It has been reshaping our oil and gas sector and the governance of the oil and gas sector. We can see that it has actually brought into the pivotal removal of the fuel subsidy in 2023 by the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which has revamped the oil sector towards curtailing corruption and revamping and creating savings for more revenue for government. And of course, we also have Electricity Act, also signed into law in 2023. That is defining how power is generated, transmitted, and consumed. This landmark legislation repealed the Electricity Power Reform Act of 2005 and shifted the electricity landscape from a centralized, federal-dominated system to a more decentralized, private sector-led and multi-tiered market, while also empowering states to regulate their own electricity sector. Yet, according to the Nigerian Society of Engineers, at its 29th edition of the Nigerian Society of Engineers October lecture series held last February in Abuja, the power reforms have not fully translated to tangible improvement or achievement of intended goals. The NSC president in his lecture noted that installed national power capacity remains around 13,000 megawatts, with actual generation still below 50% of that figure after how many years? Among factors that are said to be responsible for the power inadequacy, despite reforms, are gas supply constraints, transmission bottlenecks, and commercial inefficiency, curtailing and cutting across the entire electricity value chain. So, three major energy challenges remain daunting for Nigerians as of today. First is ensuring that the energy and power reform deliver tangible promise results to justify the reform. Second, challenge is maximizing the value of our hydrocarbon endowment before it declines. And third is delivering universal, accessible, and affordable energy to every Nigerian household. What are the reasons? Persistent underinvestment, aging oil fields, oil theft, industrial unrest, security threats, particularly in our Niger Delta area, continue to erode the production volumes. Without coordinated policy enforcing the robust financing, the PIA promise risks remaining on paper. The inevitable horizon, the energy transition, the global shift towards decarbonization is not a distant possibility. It's already reshaping markets. For Nigeria, the transition is the greatest economic opportunity in the 21st century. Our solar irradiance, that is how much energy is being received from the sun. Wind corridors in the north and the youthful tax plan population positions us to become a renewable energy powerhouse. The Federal Energy Transition Plan envisions 30% renewable capacity by 2030, a target we can exceed with decisive action. Our proposition today should be simple, very, very simple. It should be, first, Nigerian energy future is not a choice between opportunity and risk. It is a challenge to navigate both dynamics together. Success will demand a pragmatic, multi-pronged strategy that leverages our strength while confronting our vulnerabilities head-on. The dual imperative, a realistic foundation, the unfinished business, oil and gas. Oil and gas remain the backbone of our economy, accounting for roughly 70% of our export earnings and supporting millions of jobs. The Petroleum Industry Act gives a clear roadmap to capture more value, but only if we act decisively. The opportunities. Gas commercialization, turning abundant associated gas into LNG for export, CNG, LPG for clean cooking, and feedstock for petrochemical and power. Projects such as the Torugu Gas Processing Facility illustrate how a single plant can convert flake gas into marketable products, reducing emissions while adding billions to the GDP.
This is where we will be calling it a close for today's edition of the program, hoping that you have enjoyed every bit of the segments that we have brought to you today. You still have the opportunity of watching this particular edition in case you missed this live telecast on our regular social media platforms showing on your screen right now. Until I come your way again next week, it's goodbye and have a blessed week ahead.